VoyMonk Video Voice vlog, and it is Friday. I know. That's my thing, I guess. One of the things I kind of wanted to tackle, and it's not just this Friday, but normally the Friday vlogs are, about 15, 20, sometimes closer to 30 minutes. But I do want to make something kind of clear. They don't necessarily have to be 15, 20 minutes or close to 30. And in some ways, sometimes I've kind of felt like, shouldn't this be a little bit longer? I don't know. I'm not going to say that every single Friday vlog is going to be even to the 15, 10, or 20 minutes. And the reason I say that is because while these are goals, these are outlines, these are overall generals, I think sometimes when doing anything, trying to stay so close to a rule or whatever, especially when it comes to something like this, where I'm making these based on my inspirations, my creativity, and, they're things that I want to do. And if there's a point at which maybe one of those video voice vlogs during the week needs to go a little bit longer because I have something to say. Now, like I said, I try to stay within a framework because I have an overall objective and idea. But at the same time, sometimes things are going to go a little bit against what I would normally typically do. And so this Friday vlog, maybe it's only 5-10 minutes. Maybe that's probably not going to be very typical, because usually if there's things that I'm inspired by, sometimes by way of simply just doing the vlogs, there are things that I don't think necessarily fit within the 5 minutes. Or, during the week, Monday through Thursday, and then I'll save it over until, the Friday. But I'm sure going forward, there are going to be times where I just don't feel like leaving an idea. And one of the things about me having ADHD and doing these kind of ad-libbed and without a script and that kind of thing, and if you have ADHD, maybe you kind of understand what I'm saying. One of the things I did as a kid, and I know it's like, are you really going to tell us? Yes, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying what I'm saying and the meaning behind it, right? Which is, when I was younger, one of the things that I would do is I would interrupt the hell out of people when when they were talking. And I'm sure I'm probably not the only person that has done this, but one of the things that I would have a huge problem with, and this I think really comes along with the ADHD, is that if I was ever inspired or thought about something and it needed to come up, there was always the risk that if I didn't bring it up or if I didn't say something when it came to my head, that usually later on I would forget it. Like sitting in class, hold all your, questions till the end or whatever. That was difficult for me to do, especially if you're trying to learn something or you're listening to a lecture or something like that, because yes, you're supposed to write down notes, and that helps, and that absolutely is something you can do. But sometimes, that's can be another obstacle. But anyways, the point being is that if I didn't ask a question, if I didn't use it, I'd lose it. And so sometimes it's just like, well, I could circle back, but yeah, I can't circle back because I won't remember. My mind is racing. So anyways, going back to what I was saying before, that's kind of the thing when it comes to, like I said, the vlogs here, video voice vlogs, is that sometimes I may be thinking about something. Maybe I'll hold it over and when it comes that day and do it then, but maybe I'll forget, maybe it won't come up. So, and if I felt like something that I really need to be said, otherwise it's going to be lost. And if you have ADHD, you definitely, I think, might know what I'm talking about there, especially when it's a conversation. You really feel like something needs to be said, because the consequences that, and I'm sure if you know what I'm talking about, you maybe have experienced this too. If you had ADHD, is that you didn't say anything, you didn't talk. I've gone on the other way. I've done the thing, hold your questions, and then I either didn't ask the question or I forgot about the question and it was something I really needed to know. Then later on, it will come up because my brain sometimes will slow down and it'll, antagonize me to the point where, see, you could have asked that question, you didn't. And So yeah. But yeah, like I said, Friday vlogs in general, probably gonna, like I said, still be between 15, 20, 25 minutes. I want to say between 15 to 30 minutes, 30 minutes really being the max, but anywhere between the 15 to 20, 25 range. But like I said, there will be times that, hey, finishing out the rest of the week, maybe I got everything in, but I don't really have anything additional or extra to add on that Friday. And so, sometimes those Friday vlogs, maybe they just will be between 5 and 10 minutes sometimes, but that isn't something that would be typical. And, this isn't an update or anything like that. I guess I could do that in an update, but I don't feel like I need to do an entire video or video voice piece of content to address that. I mean, that's just a thing and maybe I will. I think I have done it in the past and I've mentioned that, but I go by basic guidelines as far as what I'm going to do, like when I release the video voice vlogs, when I'm going to release content, what things I have kind of coming up and that kind of thing. But I think in terms of being creative and getting back to that, hopefully I'm creative. If you do content or whatever, you're not so rigid, you're not so stagnant or dedicated to a method or an outline that you forget the overall premise, which is, this is to be creative. This is to do something that I want to do. And for me, part of the pitfall is, as far as my previous attempts at doing video voice vlogging, that have been nowhere near as successful as I felt like this has been. Typically, if I didn't hold myself to a line, I wouldn't do it. But then at the same time, if I held myself to a line, I would find myself falling out of interest and not wanting to do it. And I'm not saying that has to do with any specific, disorder or anything like that. That's just maybe part of me. But just like anything else that I mentioned, again, it's a part of the experience that I go through. So, and when it comes to this channel, it's probably possible that this may not make it to the 2025. But if I don't, it's because, again, I'm not going to force myself to do something that I don't want to do. But at the same time, I'm still going to try my best to act and stay within those guidelines, because I like the structure. I like for there to be as much consistency as possible. Like I said, I mean, I think, and I've mentioned this, and I'll state this because this has been on my mind as far as the editing and all that kind of stuff. It's like, there's ways that I could do this channel that I could cut and splice and I could clear things up, and you wouldn't probably notice as many mistakes, or it might even be a little bit more interesting. But the part of the folly and the problem with that for me is that isn't authentic. And some people might say, well, in the ways that it matters, so what? Okay, maybe that's true. But the thing is that if someone else is listening to me and, thank you, but someone else is listening and doing this or whatever, I don't know. I guess, and I can say that this from an experience of watching YouTubes and people describing and telling, their different ways and methods for success, or, doing contents in their way. And part of the thing that I can say is that sometimes, and this is especially something that I've noticed, because when I've tried to get information, it can be really difficult, because I don't know if this, like, for instance, like specific products, like things that, look for the, cheapest, most effective camera and what kind of quality to expect, right? Now I'll use this as a specific example because this is exactly something I've gone through, is that when you see people doing reviews for things, especially like cameras, oftentimes they'll do a review of a camera that they'll shoot with a completely different camera, right, than the one that they're describing. And therefore, while describing the camera that you're actually interested in, they'll take no actual footage or tell you what the experience is like with using that specific camera. Now, keep in mind, these are videos that are well put together. They're, they're very professional, and they actually get quite a bit of views. But unfortunately, sometimes when I'm actually watching it, I can't actually tell, nor do I feel like I've really gotten any information about what it is I'm looking. And what's, I would say, the obstacle there is that when you do that search, you have to literally sift through entire pages of this stuff, and it's like usually the first few, whatever, they're the exact same coverage. They're the exact same video, just edited with a different face and the same approach and production in what's being produced. And so, like I said, that's fine. That's not a criticism or an attack, but that's just not something that I want to contribute to or be a part of, because, it didn't help me. It absolutely did not help me. Those reviews absolutely gave me no actual information for where I was at and what I'm in. And, if someone is, by chance giving me the time, allowing me a chance and opportunity to listen to whatever they would like with the content that I have, and maybe they go, you know what, I could do that, which is fine too. Or maybe these are the steps that I could take, and they can take it in for themselves, but they see it in a real way as opposed to something that's manipulated or scripted or guided or marketed or targeted, or however you want to, use that to describe, getting someone to do what you want them to do rather than actually doing something that might actually be helpful and providing information that actually could be a lot more effective in terms of content. And I know the question might be, well, how is that really related to what I'm saying as far as editing myself? Well, because, like I said, we are creatures of habit. Monkey see, monkey do. Sometimes monkey pee all over you. I just had to say that. But the point being is that sometimes, when an unrealistic, idea about a way a certain thing does or doesn't do something, it can either do one or two things sometimes to the person that's consuming it. It can either inspire them to figure things out, which that's not my experience, or it can, discourage them. It can make them feel like, I got the wrong information, or I don't have the right expectations. And so, maybe I'm stuck or whatever. I know that seems confusing. I said I don't have the script of what I'm saying. This is just coming off my heart, my chest, my brain. But yeah, I don't want to do that. What you see is what you get. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's probably like, what in the holy hell am I talking about? And that's okay too. But it's real, and hopefully it gets better. I'm aware of it. I listen to it. I don't just pop these out without listening to it, although sometimes maybe that's exactly the way it seems. It's not. It's coming from a place that is real for me, and hopefully I'm getting better. I believe I have made quite a bit of improvement since I started doing these vlogs and this channel, but it's never going to come at the expense of giving up or betraying that authenticity or being someone or something that I'm not. There's lots of things I haven't done, I don't do or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily have to do with authenticity. It has to do with overall good sense and, picking spots, picking moments, in terms of who I am and how I do things. But like I said, I'm not here to sell, preach, and teach. I'm here to, be authentic as I possibly can be with the confines of the fact that I'm sharing this content with others. And so, yeah, I said that's why I do what I do the way that I do it. And like I said, as far as the editing is concerned. So, yeah, there's definitely a different way that I could do this that would make it probably easier for those who maybe are only looking for or have value to what I may or may not be saying in terms of an entertainment source. That's okay. I'd like to be entertaining, but you know what? I'm not going to be entertaining to everyone else. Some people are, maybe nobody will like me. Maybe this channel will be complete, failure for many. I mean, there are channels out there that have hundreds of videos and nobody is really watching. That's okay too. Like I said, and if that's the case, if by doing these are a thing that I find by proving and giving evidence that yes, it can be worth the journey, even if that's the final destination, that, like I said, I'm doing something as far as, and I've explained who I am, what my problems are, and the things that I use this for. If that can be helpful to others, fantastic, great. But to me, that's a greater success than if a bunch of people showed up, had a bunch of expectations, did a bunch of editing, created an image or a character of myself, and made this more of a show that's representative of much of the stuff that I was explaining earlier about stuff that's overproduced and, to more production rather than content. Yeah. That's just not something that I'm interested in. And so, like I said, sticking to a rigid course or whatever, making this a job or making this something that, as much as I want to do it for myself and, make the best content as I can, it isn't about me doing something that is unnatural and something that I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. Like I said, hopefully the content, as it gets better, as it will be the thing that draws anyone into this, who wants to respond, who wants to, be a part of this community, wants to create, wants to do their own thing and share. That is far, far more important than, whether or not I am as polished and as clear and as crisp and as professional as I could be. So hopefully, and no one's asking me this question, so it's like the way that I'm responding kind of like sounds like I'm annoyed. I'm not. I guess it's just it's part of my psyche and my highs and my lows that I'll go through. I promise I'm not losing it right now. So, but yeah, and see at the 17 mark. So, it was worth expressing. That's the point as far as, what my rhymes and reasons are for. Like I said, occasionally, sometimes, these Friday vlogs won't necessarily be 15, 20, 25 minutes. And sometimes, vlogs Monday through Thursday might go a little bit longer than 5, maybe closer to 10 minutes. I think I even had one that went 12 minutes, but that is not the usual typical. But just like anything else on here. And I've got other things I'd like to do, maybe a show, maybe an ASMR, who knows. But like I said, I don't have any money and things have to go according to what, I can create. So yeah. I think that's going to do it, though. We've made it to the 18-minute mark. And I wasn't necessarily sure when I hit this I was going to be able to do that. But that's part of the honesty and the truth of what I'm making and what I'm doing here. And hopefully, if you're listening, you know what to do. Comment, rate, subscribe. I know that's said all over the place. But really, like I said, only if you really want to. And you can expect these Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you may not necessarily always know what you're going to get, but if you listen to at least a few of these, like I said, 5 minutes, you kind of get to know me and know what to expect of this channel. And, if you want to share, you want to contribute, you want to engage, I'd love to hear from you. I'd like to listen to your content and your experiences and passions. I love 80s, 90s, pop culture, but I'm also interested in a lot of other stuff that, quite frankly, I need to probably talk about somewhat more in these vlogs. But that's going to do it. Until next time, hopefully you enjoy your Friday. Take care.